Good morning, YouTube, and welcome back to Fernvalley Farms YouTube channel. Alrighty, this morning, another beautiful morning. The sun's coming up. Check this out. I love it. Love this time of year. It's nice and cool. Right now, there's no wind. Ain't no bugs. Not yet, anyways. We're still only March. Yeah, this time of year is great. I'll take this any day over 100 degrees of heat and humidity. I love it like this. Anyways, today's story is going to be why I'm not going to feed my bees this spring. You're probably thinking, what? And this is more, if this tip helps anybody, I guess I learned from it. Maybe a beginner might learn, or maybe you guys all who've been keeping bees do the same thing. It dawned on me last year, I fed everybody in the spring like you're supposed to, the 1-to-1. Yeah, so the 1-to-1 sugar syrup, it simulates like nectar flow. It helps, especially if you get new packages of bees. Now, if I got a new package of bees, it'd be a different story. Unless, let me finish my story here. It helps like new packages draw out new comb on brand new frames. But a lot of these guys still have so much honey left from last year. I fed them really well. I like to feed really well in the fall, between all the goldenrod and whatever else there's out there, plus my open feeding. These guys got fed really well. Unfortunately, if you've seen in the last video, when I was mite washing some of the dead bees, and I still have to go through these guys yet, I did peek in there and see what they look like, but I haven't actually gone into them yet. But when I pulled my apivar strips in the fall, I like to pull my apivar strips at the same time, check my weight of my boxes, and these were all really heavy. That's why I'm really surprised. And some of these died. They were just loaded with bees. I mean, just loaded. Back in December, they were all here. I ran across a video this morning when I was arranging stuff on the computer. In December is when I gave them their sugar, and they were all alive in December. I forget what the date was, but they were all alive in December, packed with bees. So I don't know. And when I go through them, and then, like I said, I lost, and then that cold snap hit. And I obviously didn't look in there in January because you don't want to open up your boxes. But then that cold stuff hit in February, and I don't know if that done them in, but a couple of those were really light on bees, and I can't imagine they left after December absconded, so I don't know. But anyways, different subject. Why I'm not going to feed these guys, because last year I fed them. I got all those hive top feeders, and I'm like, why aren't you guys drinking? Why aren't you? I've been checking them and I made way too much sugar syrup last year. I got my 55-gallon drum mixer in the basement that I built, and there's videos on that. You can go back and check that out. And I made a lot of syrup. I wound up giving, what did I do with it? Well, I wound up giving some to somebody. They weren't drinking it. I'm like, why are you guys not drinking it? And then it dawned on me, duh, there's still a lot of honey left in them boxes. Because everybody made it through winter last year. They all made it, and they had a lot of sugar syrup. There are a lot of honey stored still left over from last fall, from the fall before, I should say. And then the trees started blooming, and then they just had no interest. I mean, a couple of the hives were taking it just a little bit, but not like you would think. Now, and then when I did get a couple of new packages last year, I had frames of honey left over. That's why I was going to say, what I said earlier in the video, if you got a new package, if you don't have any frames of honey, you gotta feed. I mean, that's a must. If not, they're gonna die. You gotta feed your bees. But if you have leftover frames of honey, like I did from even the year before that, I put them in the hives. You know, I put the honey frames on the outside. The new, then I checkerboarded some of the newer frames with the older frames that had drawn comb, and they had plenty to eat. But I did feed them, obviously, and they really didn't touch it because there was still a lot of honey on those. There was still a lot of honey that I put in the frames, or in the hive, for the new bees. But all the other ones weren't eating it either. They weren't drinking it. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Then it dawned on me, like, oh, I made all this sugar syrup, and I really didn't need to, because there's plenty of syrup in there. In these boxes, the ones that are still alive, this one, that one, and the one back there, they're pretty heavy. The boxes are really heavy. So there's still plenty of syrup, or plenty of honey in the hives. And some of these dead ones, I got a bunch of frames there too, which I need to get in there and pull them out. And right now, I'm just letting them rob it. I don't care. I'm letting them. They're flying around. I had in that last video I made with the mite wash, I left the boxes open. I don't know if you can see it. There's deer out there. If you can see them, I don't know if you can see them out there. Let me see if I'll zoom this in. I think they're gone. I can see them, but you might not be able to pick it up on the camera. They're straight ahead. They're going back into the woods. Yeah, I get a lot of deer back here. And every spring I have to go fix all my fence because the deer knock it all down. It drives me crazy. They jump it, they hook it with their feet, they pull it down, they run through it. In the wintertime, you'll look out here, they're out in the pasture, which I don't care. They're eating the grass. They're trying to find something to eat. Anyways, whatever I was just saying, I forgot now. But yeah, I'm not going to feed them because there's plenty of honey. Oh, I know what I was saying. When I left all those, I got done doing the mite wash, I had to go to work real quick, so I just left them open. And I knew that once they started flying, they were going to get into it, and I don't care. But when I came back out here in the afternoon, they were all over those, and I did close them up. But they were all over those frames of honey, and that's fine. Let them eat it. I don't care. But there is plenty of honey in these hives, so that's why I'm not feeding. That's the long story short. I'm not going to feed because there is plenty in there. Like I said, last year, I kept checking it. I'm like, what? Why aren't you guys eating? Why aren't you eating? It dawned on me. Even in the fall, I open fed. Now, and I'm actually going to switch, I think, to open feeding. I got all these hive top feeders, but I like the open feeding better. I just like that. I put them up behind the barn. I'll show you. I don't know if you can see that black thing back. That's a horse. The horse and the pony and the donkey are back there. Well, just to the right of that barn, I'll put the arrow up. I put my open feeders back there. I put my open feeders back there, and it was kind of neat to stand here and watch them, like a freeway, back and forth, back and forth. It was the coolest thing, just back and forth, back and forth. Once they found it, they were all over it, and they downed a lot of syrup. So I'm going to do that this year. Actually, I'm just gonna open feed. I'm gonna forget the hive top feeding. It's just so much easier. I buy those yellow totes, and you can go back in the videos and look. You buy those yellow totes, put the holes in them. I put the straw in there. Pour the syrup. I mean, boom, they just suck every bit of it. It's just so much easier than coming out here carrying pails all the way out here, lifting boxes, you know. And then even some of them hive top feeders, they get in there, somehow they get in there, they drown. Not a lot, but they do drown. So I just like the open feeding better. It's right up behind my barn. I put them out there. The horses are out here. There's no horses back there this time of year, or that time of year in the fall. He's out in the pasture. And I just block it off. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to open feed. But I'm not even going to do that now because there's plenty of syrup, and then the trees are starting to bud. Matter of fact, last year I asked my neighbor, because the bees were all over he's got like these little green evergreen type trees. The bees were all over it last year. And as I was there, I'm like, ooh, are my bees bothering you? I kind of feel bad if the neighbors are getting annoyed with the bees. But I don't have as many this year, obviously, because of the ones that died. And I was across the street yesterday. I seen 1 or 2 bees, but not like the year before. But the trees are starting to bud, and a couple of videos back, if you go look, you'll see my horse grain that's sitting up there. They're all over that. Every afternoon, they're all over that horse grain. So they're out foraging, and they're going to start bringing in, you know, Mother Nature's stuff here pretty quick, the pollen. But like I said, there's plenty of honey in these hives, so I am not going to feed my bees this spring. Now, here again, this could be a tip for beginners when you're first learning. I'm just saying this is what I do. I'm just saying this is what I do. I just learned that it was a waste of money. I bought all that sugar, and they didn't touch it. So I'm not going to feed them. There's plenty in there, and like I said, Mother Nature's about to pop here pretty soon. We got all these 60-degree afternoon days. The sun's been out. The trees are going to start popping really soon. And I got one tree up by my shop up there that it's like a red maple type tree. I remember last year when I'd see them all over the horse grain, and all of a sudden they were gone. As soon as they're not on that horse grain anymore, when they're not getting in the wheelbarrow, because I keep the wheelbarrow covered up because all the birds get in there and eat it, but I leave a crack about that far now, and the bees were just in and out, in and out, in and out. But once they stopped doing that, then you know Mother Nature came alive, and they're up in the trees, and I mean, I got all these woods, I got everything. So anyways, that's why I'm not feeding my bees. I was a waste of money last year. They didn't touch it. I wound up throwing so much. I threw so much sugar syrup away. It was crazy. They didn't want it because they had plenty of honey in the hives, and then Mother Nature kicked in, and they were good to go. So, anyways, that is my story. If that gives anybody actually let me know in the comments if you guys have found the same thing, that springtime feeding sometimes is a waste if you have honey left over from last year, which I do. And these colonies made it. The ones that made it, like I said, are heavy. There's still plenty in there, and Mother Nature's about to kick in. So let me know if you guys find the same thing, if you notice the same thing happening with you guys, if you don't really necessarily need to feed them so much in the spring. Now, and like I said, new packages, yeah, you got to feed them. If you don't have any frames of honey to throw in there, you definitely have to feed them. So anyways, that is my story. Hopefully you like the video. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys really soon. All right, bye.